Welcome to Throwing Shade. So, the sports world is supposed to be our representation of meritocracy. The best players get to play. So this past week this happened. It didn't happen this week, but it was revealed this past week. Rachel Nichols, who is prognosticator on ESPN, was in a battle for airtime with Maria Taylor. Now, I could tell you about it, but there's an author, Rafia Zakaria. She wrote the book Against White Feminism. And so she said this: so many women of color face a terrible nagging fear every day at school or at work in their daily lives that the white women who publicly confess commitment to racial inclusion are only engaged in pantomime. That the white women who publicly engage in inclusion are in actuality only engaged in pantomime. You know, when I read that, and I'm looking at what is going on with Rachel Nichols, I can't help but expand that to the larger world. For instance, when they ask, they caught Rachel on a hot mic, and she essentially said if they need to give more things to more people because they have a crappy record on diversity, that's fine. Just don't take it from me. Here's the thing. I think the part of the reason we find ourselves in this present state of political upheaval, of this attack on voters' rights and equal representation in an age when income inequality is the greatest that it has been in our history, part of the responsibility for that has to be brought to bear by white women. What we found is they do not exercise they are the largest demographic in the country. The largest demographic in the country. The largest, save none. And when the country needs them most to act, to push back on some of the inequality and disparities in income and things that we see, we find that they're lacking. For example, statistically, 95% of two-parent households don't experience any food insecurity. 95%. That means 5% of households where there's a mother and a father across racial lines, it does not matter, Asian, Hispanic, black, white, across that spectrum, they only 5% of those households experience any kind of food insecurity. However, when the household is managed by a single woman, regardless of race, the food insecurity issue increases by 400%. 400%. So here's the thing. So when you have that kind of disparity, and we see that women who are the largest demographic in the country, you have to ask yourself, why are kids still hungry? I mean, if you are the most powerful bloc, have the potential for the most political power, why hasn't that power translated into legislation that would inure or in some way mitigate the income inequality that the entire country is suffering from? It is an issue that comes right to the doorstep of single women, regardless of nationality, race, or creed. But nevertheless, women have not stood together collectively, moved forward, and eliminated that problem. And women are the primary caregivers in the home. How then is it that there are pockets of the country where the vaccination rate is lower than 40%? If we know that the coronavirus is deadly and that primarily The responsibility of the family's health too often, fair or unfair, lands in the lap of women in the household, but nevertheless they've not taken the initiative to go and have the people in their household encourage their children, their older children, their adult children themselves to go and get vaccinated so that we can get this COVID plague under control. In addition to that, women were emancipated after black men. So black men got the right to vote. Then women were able to get the right to vote. And even though they were last to be able to engage in this great exercise of voting and to have this opportunity for equality, they have not yet marshaled the resources, the political capital, to ensure that there are voting rights for everybody in the country. The attacks that are taking place on the rights of people to vote have been unabated when women have within their power the ability to redress that particular grievance. It's not hyperbole. Listen, imagine if in this country black women were 50% of the population. You'd give Stacey Abrams a 50% majority in Georgia. It's not, they have left all of the power that is available to them essentially on the table. Stacey Abrams and black women like her took a 30% minority in Georgia and changed the country. So, I guess one can only hope at some point white women will step up to the challenge. It seems that they've abdicated this authority. They've abdicated on everything. They abdicated on women's autonomy. When you're talking about the woman's rights or autonomy over their own body, they've advocated. Equal pay, they've advocated. Even challenged the idea of teaching authentic history in our schools. The grave social ills we could eradicate if women assumed commensurate share of the responsibility with what is going on in the nation and exercise the power available to them to do something about it. We can only imagine. See, Rachel Nichols is a manifestation of a larger issue. An issue that we need to speak to and to speak to now. Or maybe not. What do I know? I'm just throwing shade. Thanks for giving me some time today. I look forward to speaking with you later on in the week.